So we're going to do a little talk about contesting here. I did a talk 4 years ago for the club around this time of the year on amateur radio contesting. It was kind of an introduction to contesting and covered some basic material and some specific examples. And we're going to repeat some of that material here, but I've added some additional material after talking with Mike. We decided to come up with something that was kind of like for maybe contesters who have maybe done field day but don't know, or hams who have maybe done field day but are wondering what this whole contesting thing is all about. And so I've added some material to that so that we'll see. Contesting, also sometimes called radio sport, and in a sense it is. You can say we keep score and we play a competition over a fixed period of time. We're going to get into that here. So this is for not really just for newer hams. It really would benefit newer hams, but you don't have to be necessarily newer, maybe just new to contesting. You might have been out to field day, maybe you made a few contacts in the Michigan QSO party, and you're wondering what all that noise is on the weekend, especially on HF bands, and especially when there's a big international or North American contest going on. It's wall-to-wall signals, and if you want to talk to your friend on 20 meters, it's just impossible, which is why they came up with 17 meters, because there is no contesting on the work bands on 60, 30, 17, and 12 meters. And it's not a regulation, it's not a rule, but it's just because the ham is courteous. That's one of the 6 points of the amateur's code. You might want to give contesting a try. You've heard it all. It sounds intriguing. And you'd like to know a little bit more about it. So I should add first, too, that if you have any questions that come up, I think there's a chat function someplace. If there's a chat function, you can enter it in the chat and we'll read it afterwards. If not, jot it down and we'll take it afterwards. I'm going to try to keep this to 30 to 40 minutes so that we don't take up too much of your time. So ordinary folks might ask us about our compulsion, especially if they're non-ham. So we say we operate for 24, 48 hours. We log all the stations we contact, and we see who can make the most contacts in the most states or the most countries or whatever over that period of time. And they ask, well, how do you know who won? And we send our logs into the sponsor, and they check them. And they wonder, well, don't you know who won right away? At a baseball game, when the game ends, you know who won. And you know who the MVP was, and you know who scored the most runs and all that. How come you don't know that? It takes weeks, sometimes months, sometimes over a year and a half. I'm not naming any names here, but to find out what the results of the contest were.
My ballot in the mail.
How much money do you get for winning? Well, nothing.
Yeah.
Why do you do it? Well, why do we do this?
It's
not the abundant cash prizes. Maybe the admiration of family, friends, and coworkers, more like fellow hams. Certainly no groupies in here to fawn around the successful contester. Well, it must be something else. Contesting benefits amateur radio in a lot of ways, and is that me or somebody else?
Cloudy, temperature,
somebody else.
That's Josh, probably.
Yakking away at me. Anyway, contesting does a lot for amateur radio. It engages newcomers. Like I said, you probably listened on the HF bands, and you've heard all of this, and you wonder what it is, and how can I get part of that? It helps by inspiring activity in the club. The Michigan QSO party is an example where we pool our scores to see how the club does. There's probably 20 to 30 radio clubs, maybe more than that, in Michigan that take part in the Michigan QSO party, and South Lyon does quite well in some of those. Also, if you look at contests like, well, field day is not a contest, but that's club activity there. It uses our precious allocations that are always in danger of being taken away. We just lost one this past week. The FCC decided to take away our secondary allocation on the 3.3 to 3.5 gigahertz band. That band was used for point-to-point microwave for a lot of video, especially MCOM type stuff. The commission decided it was more valuable to the 5G providers than to hams. So that allocation is going to go away. in the not too distant future. It encourages us to improve our technical facilities. Better and better equipment out there, better and better antennas and stations. It provides a database so that we can study what the ionosphere does, propagation-wise, and there's millions and millions of contacts out there. I think the LOTW just hit 1 billion uploads not too long ago. There's an awful lot of data out there, and a lot of it's used by organizations like HAMSci for propagation studies. Helps you as an amateur radio operator too. It improves your skills. Its number one skill is clear and quick and accurate communication. You can explore new modes. If you're you know, an FM VHF FM operator, you might want to explore some other mode like single sideband in HF, or PSK 31, or FT4, FT8, even CW. It's a good way to get into that. You learn more about all those knobs on your rig besides the volume and the tuning knob. You can learn about how your filters work, and how the RF gain affects signals, and your noise reduction and features like that. You too can learn about propagation. You can learn when signals are best to what part of the world and the nation. If you're on a contest for 12 or 24 hours, you can hear how the bands change, and when oh, I can hear Japan now. I couldn't hear Japan before. Well, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a good time to work Japan. So you can improve your station. Maybe decide you need a better transceiver, a better antennas, maybe a better layout so that it's more ergonomically convenient to you. And you get more. No, you don't get more sleep. You stay up all night. Contesting is a means to an end. There are many things that contesting can be used for other than just racking up the score. So what do you like to do? You like to work DX? You like county hunting, summits on the air, parks on the air, handling message traffic or MCOM? Do you like to collect certificates, awards, wallpaper? Are you an experimenter? And would you like to try new bands and modes? Well, if you're a DXer, there's nothing better than a DX contest. February is when the ARRL contests are held. CQ has 2 contest periods a year for worldwide contests, March and May, plus the RIDI, which I think takes place in February, WPX contest, where the goal is to work as many prefixes as you can. And then in the fall is the worldwide contest, CQ Worldwide. And then smack in the middle of summer, to give us something to do, is the IARU HF World Championship. That's a worldwide contest where you can work anybody around the world. There's a lot of other little contests as well. Many countries have their own. Russia does, Germany, the British Empire, Spain, Japan, Canada. There's a Worked All Europe contest that's really fascinating, where the goal is to work stations in Europe, and they're very workable from here. And then many continental areas and regions like Asia and Africa and Oceania, the Pacific Ocean and islands, have contests as well. If you're a county hunter, state QSO parties are perfect for that. Pretty much every state has a QSO party. There were 4 this weekend: Nevada, Arizona, South Dakota, and Pennsylvania. And I made a few contacts in each of the 4. Stations are there, they want to work you, and the exchange includes the county, so you can rack up the counties pretty well. And as an added bonus, a lot of them have little quirks. You can win fish, wine, or blankets, or other things besides certificates. The salmon run in Washington State, to the top finishers, awards smoked salmon, so there's another incentive for you to get in. I think the California QSO party was handing out wine even this year. If you like outdoor activities, adventure radio, you can get out and work your state QSO party during summits or parks on the air. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Islands on the Air, RSGB Islands on the Air contest happens in the summertime. There's even one for U.S. and Canadian islands. A friend of mine lives on Gross Eel. I told him next year I want to come out and operate from your house and activate Gross Eel. But there's a lot of islands that exist, that have a number, and that have even been verified. So you can count them officially. Michigan is replete with lighthouses. I think we have more than any other state, except there might be one that has more, but we certainly have more than our share. And there's a weekend for international lighthouse and lightships, and some of the clubs go to various lighthouses and activate them, and you can too. I believe all you need to do is be within sight of the lighthouse. You don't actually have to be up on the tower in order to claim that as your that lighthouse number. So that's another activity. If you like traffic handling, this really doesn't apply to contesting, except the sweepstakes exchange emulates a radiogram header. That's that weird exchange where you hand out a serial number and your call sign and your check and exchange, your check and section. All of those are parts of a radiogram header. So if you want to get good at handling traffic, it's good for that. But in general, contesting teaches you to make efficient contacts and pass essential information and be accurate about it. There's nothing like accuracy. If you don't have the accurate exchange, you don't get credit for the contact. It's just that simple. So accuracy is more important than speed. It's more important than rate. If you don't have, like I said, if you don't have the information accurately, you don't get credit. If you're an MCOM operator, well, field day is a pretty good activity for that, even though field day is not a contest, right? The simulated emergency test happens every couple times a year, and it's not really a contest, but there is some score that's kept. But in general, once again, it teaches you to be a better radio operator and pass accurate information. If you like those certificates, you can get worked all states in a weekend. In the North American QSO party, that's a 12-hour contest. Sweepstakes is a 30-hour contest, and it's not on the contest that you're entering. And the final score is points times multipliers, and sometimes it's plus bonus points. A couple of the state QSO parties had bonus points for working the specific designated stations. California had bonus points if you worked all of the one-by-ones that spelled out Sequoia. That was the word of the week, the word of the year for California. If you're new to contesting and you want to get started, you can try one of the casual contests. The North American QSO party happens twice a year, and the exchange is name and state. It's not complex at all, and it's a friendly contest. Likewise, the Radio Amateurs of Canada contests tend to be quite casual. The exchange there is usually a signal report and your state. One of them, I can't remember which one, you exchange a serial number. That can be a little more tricky, but it's still not too bad. Before you get into one, though, read the rules and find out who can you work. You may not be able to work a given station depending on where they're located. I was calling CQ into Pennsylvania earlier this evening, and I got several Pennsylvania stations calling me back, but I got one in Tennessee and I got one in Rhode Island, and you know, I can't count those because they're not in Pennsylvania. So know who you can work, know when the contest starts and ends, and the contest ends when it ends. You can't rubber clock your last contact to make it look like it happened before the end of the contest. Know the exchange, and probably best of all, if you're just getting started, listen first. Listen to the other stations and see what they're saying, see what the transmissions sound like, and then you're going to want to emulate that transmission when it's your turn. If you're a technician class ham, you can. There's contests for you. VHF, UHF contest. You have full reign of everything above 50 megahertz. So you can get into each and every of the VHF, UHF contests anytime you want. There's 10-meter contests where you can operate from 28 to 28.5 and get on for that. And most of the single sideband and CW activity is down in that area, so there will be lots of action there. In HF contests, there's usually a 10-meter allocation available, so you can even get into the CQ Worldwide if 10 meters is open and make some contacts there. You can operate CW in 80, 40, and 15 meters and make some contacts there if you know your Morse code. Or you can guest op with a station, another station, a club station, or with a general or an extra class operator and get some experience there as well. Hello. Give me the next one here. If you're a general operator, you can have all bands and modes, not all parts of all bands. Some of the sub bands are limited, but many of the contests, especially the smaller ones, allow you. Basically, the activity there happens in the general class section of the band, like above 7225 or above 7025 for CW. Most of the activity tries to stay there because we want to work. Contesters want to work stations, and they're not going to work as many if you're excluding generals and advanced class operators. However, the best DX is found in the extra class segments. So it behooves you, if you plan on doing any contesting seriously, to upgrade to extra if you can. If you're a newer ham, there's a contest for you. It's called the Rookie Roundup, and it's eligible. Anybody can operate in it, but rookies are the ones that win the prizes there. And a rookie is defined as any ham who's been licensed 3 years or less. It happens 3 times a year. It's a 6-hour contest. The April contest is the phone version. August is the RIDI version, and the CW running is in December. If you're a student, there's rookie overlays as well in the CQ contest. 3 years or less, you can enter as a rookie there. If you are a student and you're involved with a school that has a club, School Club Roundup happens a couple times a year, October and February. It's a week-long event where you try to make contacts with as many other school clubs as you can. There's a collegiate QSO party that happens in September, and the North American Collegiate Championship is part of the North American QSO party that happens in January. The contest exchange can be whatever the contest sponsor defines it as. RST and a serial number, or location, or zone, or your name and state, or in the case of sweepstakes, the message header. Like I said, it must be sent and received correctly by both stations, by both you and the other station, to count as a complete contact. Now, if they get your information right, but you don't get their information right, then they could get the point, but you might not. And in some cases, you lose more than just the point. They might take away an extra QSO point if you have what's called a busted QSO in your log. If you log their call sign incorrectly, if you log their exchange incorrectly, the contest sponsors can check that against the other station's log and determine whether you copied them correctly or not. There are 2 modes of operation in a contest, run and search and pounce. As you can imagine, running, well, search and pounce is pretty easy. Run is where you call CQ and other people answer. It takes a little bit of skill to do that, but it can come pretty easily. Most new contesters will be search and pounce contesters, where you listen for a station calling CQ and you answer them. Usually you can get more mults per QSO from that, but in run stations usually make more QSOs per hour, although I've had instances where I've sat and called CQ for 5-10 minutes, not gotten any answers, and I've gone back to search and pounce. You kind of have to gauge it as you go. So to make a search and pounce QSO, you find a run station that's calling CQ. You answer their CQ. You give your call sign once. You copy their exchange. You make sure you've got everything before you hand out yours. If you didn't get their state, if you didn't get their number, you didn't get their name or whatever, you ask for a repeat before you send your own information. And then when you send yours, send it briskly, send it cleanly so that they can copy it, but only send it once, because most good contest operators will get it the first time. If there's QSB, if there's interference, you might have to supply a repeat, but the other station will ask for it. They might ask for your name again. If they ask for your name, just send your name. If they ask for your serial number, just send the serial number. Don't send the whole exchange again. Just send the information that's been asked for. As soon as you've got everything complete, log it and move on to the next station. Here's an example of a search and pounce QSO. You're tuning around and you hear CQ contest, Kilo 1 Delta Golf. Now on phone, you're going to use phonetics. Usually not just saying the letters like you would on the side on the repeater, but in HF on sideband, you're going to want to give phonetics. So CQ contest, Kilo 1 Delta Golf, and you answer Kilo X-ray 8 Alpha Bravo Charlie. And Doug comes back and says, Kilo X-ray 8 Alpha Bravo Charlie, Doug, New Hampshire. And you say, thanks, Bob in Michigan. And Doug says, thanks, Kilo 1 Delta Golf. And that's it. You log it. If you need a repeat, you ask for a repeat. If he needs a repeat, he'll ask for a repeat, but you just give the information. The end of the contest, send in your log. Yeah, you can work these stations and you can put them in your log, and maybe they'll upload their log to Logbook of the World and you'll get credit. But the contest sponsor would really, really like you to send in a log, because that really helps with log checking. Helps to check to make sure that the other station worked you accurately. It helps to make things give good, solid results in the log. There's many ways to submit the log. Some contests have you email them the log. Many of them now allow you to upload it directly on the web. Some contests don't require a log. They just require you, or they ask you to post your score to a thing called 3830. If you go to 3830scores.com, you'll see a huge database of reported or claimed scores in thousands of contests by tens of thousands of hams over a period of a couple of decades, actually. It's a very popular way to brag about your score, as well as to keep track of your scores. You can use that database yourself. In fact, 3830 is a subject we can cover in a completely separate presentation sometime, because there's just so much to it. And some contests will still take a paper log, even though it's not advisable. And in many contests, you have to submit electronically if you have more than a handful of contacts. Paper logs, as you can imagine, they have to be entered into a computer program by somebody, so you might as well do it. And the computer programs are quite good, and many of them are available. We'll talk about that in a second here. So you might as well log electronically and send your log electronically. Nobody mails diskettes anymore. Some of you might remember back in the day when you mailed a floppy disk to the contest sponsor. Nobody does that anymore. When you email the log file, make sure that it has a file name of your call.log, like nf8m.log would be the name. It's a Cabrillo file, which we'll cover also in a second. And that way they'll know whose log it is. It can't just be log, log.text is usually how most contest programs generate the log. You should change the log file before you mail it, so that the sponsor can keep track of that. Many contests have a website where you can confirm that your log was received. There'll be a list of logs received, and you should confirm that they received it. Pay attention to the due date. Many contests have, pretty much every contest has a due date by which you have to submit your log. Many, if not most, are due 30 days after the contest. That period of time is getting shorter. Sweepstakes is now 15 days. CQ contests are now 5 days. So don't sit on your log. Don't wait too long. Should you correct errors in your log? I would say, yeah, correct errors in your log if you made a typo during the contest and you realize, oh, it's W8ACB, not W8ABC. So go back and correct that later, but don't go back and say, oh, I don't remember the guy's call. He said his name was Bob and he was in Virginia. I'm going to look up for people named Bob in Virginia on QRZ and maybe guess his call sign. Or I didn't get his state. I'm going to look him up on QRZ and put down the state. The whole point of the contest is to log what you copied during the contest and not to do that afterwards. 3830, once again. Oh, category shopping, that's where you look over who's posted to 3830 and said, oh, nobody's entered in 15-meter single op low power. I'm just going to enter in 15-meter single op low power. Maybe I'll win that category. Decide on your category and enter it and be truthful about it. Category shopping is usually not illegal, but it's also not something you want to do. Be sure to post your summary to 3830scores.com. Also, you upload your log to Logbook of the World so that you'll get some credit for it eventually, and also brag on your club reflector or on the net when it comes around. This is an example of what the Cabrillo log looks like. It's going to be hard to read on your screen, so I won't go into it, but it's got some basic header information that defines your call, your station, your category, and then a line for each of your contacts all the way down, and they can get quite lengthy if you make lots of contacts. When you're making a contact, no extraneous stuff. Don't talk about the weather, don't talk about your rig, no chit chat, don't, you know, if your name is whatever, you're 20 over 9 here in Novi, Michigan. Now, they don't want to know that. All they want to know is your exchange. And if you're on a phone contact, you might just say big signal or nice audio and just toss that in. That's all you need to say, but don't, it's not a rag chew, it's a contest. Don't use screwy phonetics, use standard phonetics. One friend of mine used to use the call sign keep all 6 under the covers. That's a little bit confusing. So use your standard phonetics and know a couple of different phonetic alphabets. I usually say November Foxtrot 8 Mike. If somebody's having trouble hearing me, I'll switch over and say Norway Florida 8 Mexico. And that way it might make a little bit more sense to somebody that way. You give the exchange in the correct order. If it says name and state, don't give state and then name. If it's a serial number and a county, don't give the county and then serial number. Put it in the same order that the spec is, and put it in the same order that your logging software has it in. Give the complete exchange. If the exchange says, like the sweepstakes exchange has your call sign in it, leave the call sign in, don't leave it out. Yeah, they know your call because they called you, but it's part of the exchange, so give the complete exchange. When you're calling a station, the run station goes first. Don't call a run station and say, this is NF8M, you're 5-9 in Michigan. Let the run station give their exchange, then you give your exchange. So otherwise, everything gets kind of messed up. And about the words please copy, do not use the words please copy. There's a lot of extraneous stuff that happens. It basically just adds time and doesn't convey any information. That's one thing that will raise the rackles of pretty much any seasoned contester, is hearing people say please copy. For more enjoyable contesting, learn your rig. Learn about your rig's capabilities and what it can do. Test everything beforehand. Some contests have practice sessions beforehand. The Northern California Contest Club sometimes sponsors practice sessions on Thursday night for some of the big contests. So look up on their website to see when they're having that contest. Go ahead and enter, use your logging software. Go ahead and make a few practice contests. Don't forget to delete them out of your log because they won't count in the contest eventually at the end, but it's a good way to test everything. Get some contest logging software and use it for contests. Your general purpose loggers like Ham Radio Deluxe, those sorts of things, those are not good for contesting. Contest logging software has all the cross-checking and multiplier checking and score totaling functions that you need. If you're doing phone contests, use a headset. It helps to have that microphone in front of your face with a foot switch so that you don't have to, you can free up your hands to type on the keyboard. If you don't think you got your the other station's information right, don't be afraid to ask for a repeat. It's not slowing them down to throw out the number one more time. It's all in the interest of making a complete contact. Don't rely on the spots. If you're using a spotting network, some of the contest software has telnet spots built right in. There's other spotting services like DX Heat that show you who's on the air. Don't rely on those to copy the call sign. You you should make sure to copy the call sign and all the information yourself, just to confirm that you're actually working the station you think you're working. Remember that in a contest, if you want to maximize your score, the time spent, butt in chair time, if you will, and the rate, how quickly can you make contacts and how many can you make in an hour, that adds up to your score. If you're in a pileup, don't waste a lot of time waiting for your turn to come around. There's a suggested time of maybe 2 or 3 contacts, the K3ZO rule of twice. If you don't work the station with 2 calls or 2 overs, move on. They'll still be there when you come back down the band. Don't waste time with stations that have big signals but they can't hear. Alligator with a big mouth and small ears. If you call them 3 or 4 times and they keep calling CQ, move on. Don't keep trying to call them. Unless they're a mult you need. If you just need South Dakota for a clean sweep, yeah, sit there all night until you work them. But that's you're wasting time if they don't hear you. The big international contests, Friday night is for the big guns. You can get on Saturday or Sunday and be fresh meat and work lots more stations. Otherwise, you're going to be in Kilowatt Alley competing with the other kilowatt stations, and chances are you won't be heard. And if you're a CW op, but your CW isn't as fast as the guys that are doing 30, 35, 40 words a minute, tune up higher in the band. The slower CW tends to be way up, a little bit higher up, even above 7100 for the really slow or straight key operators. Logging software does so much. It keeps your log, it talks to the rig, it knows what frequency your rig is on, it'll change modes when you change in the log when you change modes on the rig. You can also change modes on the software and it'll talk back to the rig and say, okay, go to 20 meters or go to 15 meters. There are some software like with N1MM, you can run the whole contest without touching your radio. You can do everything from the software. The logging software will prompt you for the information you need to have a complete contact. It'll check for duplicate stations. Most of the time you can only work 1 station on a band or overall. And if you try to work the same station again, it'll tell you that it's a dupe. It'll show you the multipliers that you worked, and it'll show you the ones that are wanted yet. So you can say, oh, I need that county, or I need that state. It keeps your score, and this is the thing that appeals to a lot of people, is watching your score go up. It can be satisfying to see that score climb up into the thousands and tens of thousands as you move along. And finally, it'll generate not only the Cabrillo file that you need to submit for the contest sponsor, but the ADIF file that you can send into Logbook of the World. Lots of different software. We won't get into that here, but there's N1MM, there's Logger 32, there's N3FJP, there's GenLog 32. WriteLog is still around. For Linux users, there's CQR log. There's one called Skookum Logger for Mac users that's really, really good as well. So N1MM only runs under Windows. I am running it in Linux under Wine. Many of them will run in Wine as well, but there are tricks to it. You need to really know what you're doing when it comes to that. But there's logging software. Try them out, pick one, and use it consistently. Other things you can do is try different layouts. Try a layout that's efficient. This guy's got 2 radios, one on the left, one on the right. The computer's in the middle. When you typically operate, you're going to be spending most of your time with your face in the computer monitor or a couple of computer monitors. So that should be front and center, or at least right where you can see it. If you share your time between just casual operating and contesting, you might need a layout that's a little different than that, but this is a good contest layout right here. Some things you can do to improve your station. Change the layout so that your equipment is where you need it, right at your fingertips. If you have to reach over a stack of tuners and cables to change antennas, or if you have to move cables around to go down a different band or different antenna, maybe it's time to think about rearranging things, getting antenna switches, that sort of thing. you're going to spend a lot of time sitting in your chair, or you can stand if you have a standing shack, but make sure you have a comfortable chair that you can sit in for long periods of time. If you're a phone operator, a headset and a foot switch is quite good. When it comes to antenna equipment performance, be mindful of your local receive noise and do what you can to eliminate it. Maybe you want to improve your antennas at some point. And if you're buying a new rig, check the specifications of that rig. Rob NC0B every year evaluates the rigs out there from a contest viewpoint, and will tell you his information can tell you which rigs have good receive performance, which rigs have good transmit phase noise performance. There's a lot of information there. It's NC0B is the guy that does that. You can also join a contest club. There are dozens of contest clubs around the country. You can pretty much join anyone you want. Our local contest club is the Mad River Radio Club from Southern Michigan and most of Ohio. It's a good group of people. It's fairly serious contesters in it, but a lot of casual contesters as well. The biggest ones tend to be like Potomac Valley Radio Club or Frankfurt Radio Club, the ones out east. You could join those as well. But the circles you see here are for contest club credit in some of the contests. ARRL has a requirement that all scores for contest club credit must be from stations located within these circles, 175 miles typically of the reference point defined by the contest sponsor. So join a contest club, and then you can hang out with other like-minded people. There's a magazine that ARRL publishes called National Contest Journal. If you're an ARRL member, you can read that online with your membership. Even if you don't get the print magazine in the mail, you can read NCJ now online. So if you're interested in that, read some of the articles in there. And there's articles for the little pistols, there's articles for mobile contesting, there's articles for new contesters, next generation contesters as it's called, for some of the younger contesters, and how they're getting by and the cool stuff that they're doing. So it's a good publication if you're interested at all. We can do a whole program on your log checking report. Some of the major contests put out a report saying, here's the stations you copied wrong, here's the stations that copied you wrong, and you can use that information to improve your performance. You turn in a log and it says you had 65,000 points, and then 4 months later you look in ARRL website or in QST and you've been nicked by 10 or 15,000 points, and you wonder what happened. Well, the log checking report will tell you why, and you can get those. CQ will email you a link to that, but you can go and check them. You can go and log into ARRL, you can log into the CQ website and look at your log checking reports and use that. ARRL publishes a bi-weekly contest update with contesting news. There's a contest column in the magazine, CQ Contest Reflector. It's an email list with a lot of posts about contesting. You could help with a multi-op station or attend Contest University. That was held online this year, and depending on the fate of Dayton next year, it may be held online next year as well, but there will be something. Contest University happens the day before the Dayton Hamvention down in Dayton. There's also usually a session at Visalia and W9DXCC occasionally, but it's a good way to learn a lot about contesting. Lots of classes you can take. Some of the resources you might look into, Bruce Horn, WA7BNM, who last year won the CQ Contesting Hall of Fame Award for his work on online resources, publishes a contest calendar website where you can look and see links to and rules for and information about pretty much every contest that's out there. He also runs 3830scores.com, where you post your score and see how others did and see how you've done. And then the website b4h.net has a page called Cab Forms, which allows you to manually enter your log and generate a Cabrillo file from your from your logged information. So even if you don't have logging software, you can still generate the log file to send to your sponsor, to the contest. And in fact, CAB Forms will even send it for you. You don't even have to download it and upload it again. Contesting.com is a website. ARRL has a page on contesting guidelines, lots of information there. I mentioned both of those last two. Contest update comes out every 2 weeks, and contestuniversity.com has not only information on Contest University, but archives of the slide decks and many videos for a lot of the presentations. You can spend many hours watching a lot of these Contest University presentations and maybe give you some incentive for going to the next one. So summing it all up, play by the rules, know what the rules are, play by the rules, get on the air, make some contacts, stay awake, and hopefully have fun. It's a lot of fun, and hopefully you can enjoy it too. So that's my presentation, and I'm open for questions.
Frank? Frank?
Yes, I'm here.
I feel like I've been drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But all good stuff, all good stuff. And
yeah.
The nice thing is that we were recording it, so when I want to catch some of the stuff again a second or third time, I'll be able to get it from the YouTube video, thanks to Jerry. But,
yeah, for sure.
Good stuff.
Okay, yeah, I know I packed a lot of information into that, and I didn't want to confuse people or make it too overwhelming, but it kind of turns out that way when you cram it all in into a short period of time. I didn't want to take too much time doing it either. But
no, I was not criticizing.
Oh yeah,
it was good stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot to digest, but there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody with questions?
Just one quick comment.
Yeah.
When we arrived at the hotel here, my cell phone connection dropped out.
Okay.
So I lost about maybe 4 or 5 minutes of the presentation until I got it running again on Wi-Fi in here. So I'll put the video together so it's more or less contiguous, but there might be a couple, 3 slides that we missed out on. Just when you see the video, there might be a little glitch to it, but
yeah,
I got almost all of it.
All right, I can put the slide deck up on nf8m.com as well, and if anybody would like it sent to you, I'll be happy to send you the PDFs or point you at the PDFs.
I'll look at it too, and I can probably tell if there's any slides missing. I can splice them in.
Yeah, okay.
Frank, what was the logging software for the Mac?
It's called Skookum, S-K-O-O-K-U-M, Logger. I don't know the website, but I'm sure Google will find it for you.
Thanks.
Sure. I've never used it myself, but those who I know that have Mac in the shack and use it really like it. It's a fairly very complete, and it too is under fairly regular development. That's one thing to look for in contesting software is how often does it get updated. N1MM gets updated every week with bug fixes, new features, changes for existing contests. The contest sponsor for next weekend's contest might say, oh, we're going to change something. We're going to add bonus stations. Well, the guys at N1MM are real quick, and they'll add it to the contest, to the software, and it'll come out usually on Tuesday is when they update. And you probably all know that our own Larry
K8UT.
Yeah, K8UT. I just totally blanked there. I hear Larry on the radio every day talking to Steve. K8UT is one of the developers, one of the development team, and he would be a good person to ask if you have questions, or maybe he wouldn't. There is an IO, groups.io for N1MM as well. So if you have questions about it, maybe it's been answered already. But I would say that probably 90% of the logs in the big contests are kept with N1MM. You can see by examining the logs which contest software was used. There's another nice website called contestonlinescores.com that lets you, or maybe it's score singular, I'm not sure, but your software can upload the score, your score minute by minute to this website, and you can see in real time how you're doing versus other stations. It doesn't send specifics, it doesn't send any QSO information, it just sends your score summary, but you can see not only your score and how long it's been since the last one was reported, but which software is in use. And if you look down the software that's in use by the stations that are reporting, they're virtually all N1MM. There's a few N3 FJPs, and there's a couple of others in there, but for the most part, N1MM has the lion's share of the market. And by the way, Tom N1MM was also a recipient of the CQ Worldwide Contest Hall of Fame a couple of years ago for his work with the team. All right. Good. Well, thank you for tuning in tonight and listening. And like I said, the slide up with the slide deck up at nf8m.com. And you'll find it under, I don't remember where I put it, under resources or contest club or club presentation tab. I think there is one off to the side. So thank you for inviting me to do this, and I appreciate it. And as always, let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Frank. I really appreciate you stepping up and giving us a very good presentation. I think from the number of people here, a lot of interest. Sometimes at the meetings we have 8 to 10 people. I think tonight we had 17 most of the night. So a lot of interest, and appreciate it.
Very, very comprehensive, Frank. You really covered a lot there.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Frank.
Nice job.
Glad to. Thank you.
Just to reiterate, I did send out an email to